What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the OddsShopper channel, coming to you with a Sunday night football edition of NFL Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. We have started out hot on this video, obviously. The Derrick Henry thing, we should have gone Justice Hill. But either way, it has been a really nice start here on Lindy's. If you have been tailing every single play here, 5-1. Feels good to start off in the win column. Again, the leans, neither one of those on the last two videos ended up coming to fruition. We ended up shorting the crap out of Dontavian Wicks. He ended up on the field right around, 40-45% of snaps. And you know how many catches he had? A big fat 0. So that helped because we took the under of that. We took the under of the receiving yards. Anywho, that was Friday. This is Sunday Night Football. And boy, do we have a game shootout potential between the Rams and the Detroit Lions. I'm going to talk you through the ins and outs of what I'm seeing here. Have a couple of likes. Again, this is just kind of the way that it's worked out, where the lean, probably not going to be a play for me at this point. The likes, well, there's 2 of them, and a lock that I'm absolutely in love with. I think there is a massive game coming from somebody in this one. But of course, $1 if you want to use code KICKOFF. Get yourself the light and core subscriptions here at Stochastic. Fantasy goodness all the way around. If you're playing Sunday Night Football Showdown, if you're playing Monday Night Football Showdown, tons of tools and content. Obviously, this is getting released here on Sunday morning, right after the main slate locked. I'm sitting here watching it on my iPad at the same time that I'm giving you the information. So sign up. Do me a solid, obviously, $1 to get all of that goodness. If you're playing DraftKings FanDuel for fantasy tonight, check it out. Alrighty, y'all. Without further ado, let's get to the picks. Boy, am I excited for this. We are running back a playoff game from last season, the divisional round, Rams, Lions. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm excited, but I'm kind of excited. But I'm just saying, it's going to be an awesome one. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Everybody's talking about the Rams passing attack here. Both of those guys, top 2 rounds for fantasy purposes. And Detroit, holy crap, are they stockpiled with absolute talent everywhere. Amon-Ra, the sun god, St. Brown, sitting there on the outside in the slot. He can go anywhere that he wants. You got Jameson Williams, potentially a fantasy sleeper for the people. Deep target, obviously Alabama. He was the number 1 there once upon a time. Had the knee injury in that SEC championship game that ended up sending his professional career off to a weird start, but starting to see the snaps progress. I'm so excited to see him tonight. And then somebody that we will feature here later on this program in the lock department. But 4.5. 4.5 is where we're sitting here. And I think that that is about appropriate. However, as I'm talking through this, I'm going to just get this out of the way right from the get-go because, well, I want these videos to be under 10 minutes so I can get you the information. Detroit, one of the most popular teams that people are betting in the Super Bowl, as they should. They have the most stout, stacked offensive line in the National Football League. I would put them as the 1A. I'd probably put the Eagles around 1B with my lot and some of those other pieces. But as I work through everything on this offensive line for the Detroit Lions, yeah, I do think they can do whatever they want offensively. They absolutely pay Jared Goff. He is fitting the quote-unquote culture of this team for Dan Campbell and company, and he does it to a T. You have David Montgomery, shout out Iowa State. How about that Iowa State duel? Cy-Hawk Trophy going back to Ames as it should. You guys don't care about that. Let's go back to the NFL. But we absolutely love this offensive line. I absolutely love this offensive line for the Detroit Lions. They are stacked with Decker, Glasgow, Penny Sewell, and center Frank Ragnow, probably my favorite center in all of football, which it's weird to have a favorite center, but when you do this for a living and you do this on a day-in, day-out basis, you start to get familiar with these guys. They become like family, especially when you have David Montgomery going for like 2, 3, 4 touchdown games over the course of last season, and he was my fantasy sleeper. It felt really good to be right about that. However, Jahmyr Gibbs, that is going to be a big question as far as how that running game ends up going back and forth between the 2 of them. You want to keep Gibbs first-round draft equity. You want to keep him healthy, keep him on bubble wrap. I think you want to keep him involved. And David Montgomery, I think you want to have him eat up some of those carries between the tackles that otherwise, might run into some issues for Gibbs, because Gibbs is so special in the passing game. That's where you really want to be utilizing him on a day-in, day-out basis. And really, I'm harping on everything there because if you compare their offensive line up against the defensive line of these Los Angeles Rams, you have no Aaron Darnold. You have no real anything. I mean, Florida State Seminoles, Braden Fiske going to be out there on the left edge there for them. It's going to be weird seeing him and Jared Verse have to start and play like every single down. Now, they played together at Florida State. They have tons of familiarity with each other, but trying to get after right tackle Penny Sewell is not for the lighthearted. He is potentially my favorite tackle, my favorite offensive lineman in all of football. Again, weird to have one, but he can pull. He can do everything that you want for an offensive lineman, and he'll be lighting up next to Sam Laporta, who is very, very important to me in this football game. What I'm getting at is I don't think the Rams defense is very good at all. I think they're going to actually be downright pitiful. They're going to be starting 3 rookies, Josh Wallace and the aforementioned Verson Fiske, and then you're going to be looking at a secondary that consists of Cameron Curl, whose pass rush grade is just absolutely terrible coming in on blitz packages. You have Quentin Lake, who I think is going to be pretty gettable as well. Somebody who, from the cornerback position, struggled at times last year before figuring it out, especially important in that run defensive scheme as they come up to the line of scrimmage. But when you're starting another guy in Tre'Davious White on the outside alongside Verse, Fiske, Wallace, I mean, this is just such a weird football team for me to be grading. And I would be going towards the Detroit side if I had to lean towards any part of this football game. So we start things off in the lean department. If you want to pick a side, I find it hard coming off of the rematch. Obviously, it was a competitive game, an enjoyable game. Puka Nacua went nuts, which we'll get to next. But I think Detroit is the right side of this one. So I lean Detroit minus 4.5. Alrighty, y'all. Let's get to the actual picks. But first, if you guys are looking at joining OddsShopper, we have the Portfolio EV live. We have Tails live. You can sign up for my marketplace. We'll get to that here in a second. But Portfolio EV, promo code kickoff, same kickoff code that we have going for the fantasy side at Stochastic. On OddsShopper, we have the Portfolio EV. That is giving you, comparing all of the markets, all of the sports books you have available in your state, and giving you access to it, again, for less than $1 a day. Portfolio EV, 70% off. Use code kickoff at the link below. And then if you want to get my plays, the entire card from this game and likening, 50% off your first week, code Lindy50. Currently, my package is going for $20 a week, $50 for a month, but $10 for your first week, $25 for your first month if you sign up at the link below with code Lindy50. Would love to see you there. Alrighty, y'all, let's get to some picks, shall we? Let's begin the program. A lot of pleasantries talking you through some of the ins and outs and some of the things that I'm noticing, because for me, I do mathematical modeling. I absolutely love spreadsheets, and I love trying to sim out games and trying to figure out different ways of how these teams line up. And I want to start actually on the Puka Nacua receiving yard side of things here in terms of discussing the likes. I wrote them in the wrong order for my friend, producer Jacob, who was with me throughout MLB. He'll be with me throughout the NFL season this year. But I look at Puka Nacua, and he was somebody that if you watched NFL Lindy's last season, I was very high on coming into the season, purely because Sean McVay does not start important players to his scheme or to anything, rookies specifically, in the preseason. And when Puka Nacua did not play a snap of preseason, then they were basically making up reasons for him to be hurt, and yet he was practicing in full every day, something stood out to me, and that was that he was probably really, really good. Now, Cooper Kupp was also dinged up to start off the season. Did it help him starting off in that on the road in Seattle spot in week 1 and progress into the season? It sure frickin' did. But now you get both of them active, and we're starting to get a couple of reduced rates on a sophomore season here for Puka Nacua. I compare some of his receiving props to Justin Jefferson sitting north of 80 up against the New York Giants. You had Tyreek Hill sitting around 100, 98.5, 99.5 against Jacksonville here for week 1. Why is Puka Nacua being drastically undersized considering the run rates that we're expecting here for this football team? Now, it is week 1. We have to kind of make some educated stance, some educated guesses about what we're exactly dealing with. But I think we're dealing with a team in the Los Angeles Rams that really want to spread the football around. I'm projecting them right around 61, 62% of the time in terms of pass plays relative to run plays. Kyron Williams, very strange to have him, be the guy who's listed as the return kicker. Now it's Blake Corum that's going to potentially be returning kickoffs and punts. Again, punts specifically, I believe, looking at that first string report. But what am I trying to think of? Depth chart. There we go. That was the word I was looking for. But the word I'm looking for here for Puka Nacua is special. We saw him really excel in this exact matchup last time around. Absolute wagon of a human being. And I don't think a lot has changed for the BYU product. It's his second season. He has Matt Stafford, who, my God, could you have gotten more glowing reviews from guys like CJ Stroud on Matt Stafford? I combined the names, and I do think that Puka Nacua is in for a huge workload yet again. 114 catches, over 1,500 yards last season, 7 tutties. In this same matchup, 9 for 10, 181 yards and a tutty last season. He did have a fumble that was a little bit drastic, and obviously this game was close, 24-23. But I do think he continues to excel in this matchup. So the one part that I am bullish on, and the one part that's keeping me away from betting Detroit, is his presence, because he can do just about anything that they ask of him in this matchup. And the guys lining up opposite of him, you're going to get a rookie in Terrion Arnold. I don't know where he necessarily plays on the field, but looking at some of the schematics in Alabama, I think we're going to see him probably line up more on the side of like Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver 3. And they'll probably go more towards Carlton Davis, who's 6'1", 206, just a little bit heavier frame than Terrion Arnold, who generally plays around 190, 195. I think that that's going to be kind of the matchup we're looking at. So I'm very bullish on that. But I also want to talk about this. With Jahmyr Gibbs potentially playing more snaps, there's more passing game involvement. And you look at some of the projections across the entire industry for a guy like Jared Goff, I think we're going to see more passing this time around. Hey, it was competitive. 43 passing attempts against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 41 against San Francisco, both of those being negative game scripts until they weren't. But the Rams specifically, only 27 pass attempts last time out against them. They were able to get up early, often, and establish the run. They were able to kind of get a lot done there. And the Rams talked about how gettable they are on that defensive side. But for week 1, with the number of weapons that they have, and Jahmyr Gibbs being on the field more than like 35, 40% like he was early on in his career. And obviously he was dealing with hamstring injuries and dealt with a hamstring injury during the preseason here. I like over of passing attempts. I've currently got him around 37 passing attempts. This isn't a market that I go to very often, so if I'm giving it a vote of confidence, you should know that it's probably a pretty good bet. So Jared Goff, over 33.5 passing attempts, and Puka Nacua, over 73.5 receiving yards. Obviously, this total has been bet up from 51 to 53, 53.5 now I'm seeing. There should be points expected, and as such, I expect some more passing attempts than the market currently does based on the prop numbers that don't line up with a 53.5 total for me. Alrighty, y'all, before we get to the lock, my favorite play, and it's definitely my favorite play of this game, check out Bet365. It's available in Pennsylvania now, as well as a ton of other great states. We're talking Kentucky, New Jersey, Arizona, Iowa, so many places. If you have Bet365, they upgraded their deal from $150 to $200 in bonus bets that you get when you bet $5 at the link below. This is one of the most reputable sports books internationally, as well as here stateside. So check them out as they expand their presence in the States. Be sure to sign up and take advantage of some really advantageous lines, including the one we're about to talk at. This is where I ended up getting this one. This is where you want to be getting this one. So without further ado, producer Jacob, why don't we get to the lock, shall we? It's only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. We broke down the ins and outs of the offensive line and how strong I feel it is from the Detroit Lions side. They will still be running the football, and yet I think 33.5 pass attempts is too low here for Jared Goff. Puka Nacua, over 73.5 receiving yards. I am playing in the same way the market has. It's been bet up from 51 to 53.5, but a prop is my lock here in this one for sure. And it is my favorite play. It's like second or third favorite play of the week, and I love that under of Dallas and Cleveland. So, hey, if you want to play armchair quarterback there on your side of the screen, let me know how I did on that one. We'll see. I had an under 44 ticket for what it's worth, in addition to double dipping there at 41.5 at even money. But we are going to the lock department, my friends, on a guy in Sam Laporta, Iowa's finest. It's kind of become like tight end U-ish, or tight end U adjacent. South Dakota State, really, though. Dallas Goedert, a number of other pieces that are looking nice for the draft in future years, but we're going to get ahead of ourselves. Sam Laporta, he is pretty much routinely in every single draft across every single person, the first tight end off the board. A lot of people selecting him before Kelsey, a lot of people before Kincaid, before McBride. Sam Laporta, a lot is expected of him here. And think about some of these defensive pieces that are missing, specifically Aaron Donald on the defensive side. The Rams defense, I think, is terrible, horrible, absolutely no good. In fact, only one player, Kobe Turner, with any decent PFF grade. They're going to be starting 3 rookies. They add Tre'Davious White trying to shore things up, but since 2017, I think outside of coverage grade, everything else is a little bit overrated for him. You're looking at Christian Roseboom, who's going to be sitting in the middle of that, absolutely awful, to say the very least, about his coverage. And then Jake Hummel sitting there in the middle of that field. The middle of the field for Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the slot and Sam Laporta is gigantic. The opportunity for them in this spot is gigantic. However, Amon-Ra sitting there north of 80 everywhere. I'm not going to be touching that one in any way, shape, or form because there's a lot of game scripts where they do get ahead. We're potentially going to lose the passing attempt, although, again, I think neutral game scripts in this one, we still see him exceed that mark. It comes down to price and probability at the end of the day, and considering we're looking at BetMGM that at minus 120, I'm happy to be laying that vig considering, I've got it closer to 61%, 60%, but this one I have way different. Sam Laporta is listed at 53.5 receiving yards. Now, when you're talking about props, and something I'm going to bring up a lot during the course of this program is I have mean projections. I generally use those for my fantasy purposes, but when it comes to the betting side of things, and I'm betting props, and that is primarily what I like to do in the NFL, I'm hammering home median projections. I'm trying to turn everything I can into what is the median number, because you look at over 1,000 yards receiving, 107 receptions from him last season. There were obviously a lot of up and down games. Against these Rams last season, only 3 catches for 14 yards, did have a touchdown to go with it. But I think that's kind of baked into this line performance against a team. How did they scheme against them? Well, Sam Laporta should have a massive opportunity coming off of 11 and 13 targets in games that mattered last season. Specifically, I'm looking at the playoffs. Talking about playoffs? Tampa Bay and San Fran. We saw him a massive part of those game scripts, a massive, important part of those game scripts. I think most of the time this season, we're going to see an increase to his target share because they realized they had a good one very early on in that season. 5 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets in weeks 1, 2, and 3, respectively. I have to bring up his target share coming off of 147 targets in 2023. I have to bring up his receiving props, 53.3 yards per game there over the course of last season. And don't forget, he was dinged up. He got dinged up in week 18 coming into those playoffs. I think this Rams number is a little bit misleading because another week later against Tampa, 11 targets. I mean, we're talking about somebody that is his role in this offense, to be peppered in the middle of the field. And that's where I think the Rams are the most exploitable. Give me all day Sam Laporta over 53.5 receiving yards, minus 110 at Bet365, as well as a bunch of alternate numbers that I'm going to be betting. Sam Laporta, 75 plus, 100 plus. I'm in love with Sam Laporta. I think he has an unbelievable game. So do not look at last year's week 18 box score. His health was in question, and everybody was yelling at Dan Campbell about that one, but looked pretty good there in those last 2. I think that is his role. A massive year incoming. Stay healthy, Sam Laporta. You got this. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks in the Showdown Streets. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Let me know your favorite plays. We're going to try to get this video out to the people because, well, this game starts in just over 6.5 hours. We want you to get this information. And hey, hit the like button on the way out. That goes a long way for me, as well as $1 to sign up using code KICKOFF down below for the fantasy side over at Stokastic. If you want to check out the Portfolio EV, 70% off using promo code KICKOFF. Both of those live. So much goodness to sign up for, so little time. Thank you, producer Jacob. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck on Sunday Night Football for Rams Lions.